Hey guys, it's Bex. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing another reading wrap up, and for this one I'm deciding to combine February and March together. I just didn't get around to doing one for February, but I still wanted to, so we have quite a few books to talk about in today's video. I had my best reading month ever in March. Why is my voice doing this? I will also really quickly talk about just little stats that I put in my reading journal. In February, I read 7 books, 2,519 pages. My average rating was 4.29 stars, which is so good. I read 5 of those physically and 2 of those on audio. Out of those 7, we had 1 romantasy, 1 romance, 3 fantasy, 1 thriller, and 1 other. Then in March, I read 10 books, 1 DNF. I read 4,344 pages. That is like almost double the amount I usually read. I was not only reading a lot of books, but I also read big books. My average rating was even better than February at a 4.35 star. I also read really good books. This was literally just my best reading month ever in terms of like everything. I read 6 of them physically, 1 on audio, and 3 on my Kindle. Genres, we have 3 romantasy, 3 fantasy, 1 mystery, and 3 other. First book we read in February was Supernova by Marissa Meyer. This was the conclusion to the Renegades trilogy, which is a young adult sci-fi trilogy about like superheroes. We have our main character, Nova, who is one of the bad guys of the story. She is an anarchist, and because of things that have happened to her in her past, she hates the Renegades, and she decides to try to infiltrate them by kind of posing as a renegade. So we have secret identities, kind of like a vigilante situation, a little subplot of romance in there, which is just so cute. One word I would use to describe this whole series is fun. It was a blast. I enjoyed all 3 books so immensely. This one I rated 5 stars. The end was just mind-blowing. I didn't expect it. We had a reveal in the epilogue. It absolutely shocked me. 5 star. Love this book so much and the series. Please read it. Then I listened to a book on audio called Confessions by Kanae Minato. This book was interesting. What did I rate this book? I rated it 3.5 stars. It wasn't bad by any means, but it just was, yeah, a little bit odd. Like I said, we have this teacher, and you know from the beginning, from the summary, that her daughter died and that one of her students in her class is responsible. You don't know which one, you don't know what happened. You obviously learn that along the way. We have some chapters in our teacher's POV, we have some chapters in specific students' POVs, and basically the teacher is just kind of trying to get revenge in a sort on the students that were responsible for her daughter's death. It was a pretty short book, which I think helped. If it was much longer, I probably would have been more, not even bored, but just like, all right, I'm ready for this book to be over. I will say that I wasn't really expecting the ending, and I've had it on my radar for probably like 2 years, and I finally picked it up on audio, so glad I did that, and it was fine. You know, my 3.5 and down star rating is usually like, I enjoyed my time while I was reading it or listening to it, but I would never reread it. I would probably recommend it for certain people or for certain things, circumstances, but it just wasn't my favorite. Next, we had another 5-star read, which was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I hear so much discourse on this series, mostly Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, the 2nd and 3rd book. This is the Empyrean series, by the way. The 1st book is Fourth Wing. A lot of people didn't like it, but a lot of people did like it. There's just, yeah, a lot of discourse on it, but I am one of the people that absolutely loved both books, or all books I should say. I just love it. I think the writing is good. I think the plot is good, and you are engaged the whole time. I love most of the characters. The dragons, if you don't know, this is about our main character, Violet. There is this war college, and in that war college there is a dragon riding quadrant. Violet enters the dragon riding quadrant in the 1st book, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You have to basically learn how to ride a dragon. You have to get like chosen by a dragon, and then you bond to that dragon. And I love the dragon aspect so much. I think my favorite character in the series is a dragon. Dragon and Darna. I cried in this book. I was just hooked the whole way through. It is long, but because I love it so much, I'm almost glad it's so long, which doesn't usually happen. I'm usually like, okay, over 500-page book. Absolutely loved this one. Another 5-star read. Next, we have another one I listened to on audio, which was Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. I was so excited to finally get to this book. This is the sequel to Better Than the Movies, which I am obsessed with. It is like the only romance book that I've rated 5 stars, I'm pretty sure, and it's my favorite romance book in general. I think she's my favorite romance author. I haven't read her adult romances yet, which actually I'm starting one of those on audio. Like next time I need to pick up an audiobook, which is probably going to be tomorrow on my way to work. I first of all love her books on audio. I've listened to all of them on audio. I just love the narrators. I think they do a great job. This one had dual narration, and I wasn't excited to read this, but I was also a little bit nervous because I, like most people, were like, oh, there's a sequel to Better Than the Movies coming out? Like, I don't really think it needs one, but I'm also excited because I loved it. And this book is actually a second chance romance, so not a spoiler. You get this in the summary and everything, but Liz and Wes, our main two characters, are not together anymore. At the beginning of this book, we kind of find out that Wes has been going through a really hard time. Something happened in his life, and he just kind of, was dealing with that in his own way, and therefore they went their separate ways. But Wes is kind of back on his feet in a good place in life again, and he returns to college, the same college that Liz goes to, and he decides it is time to get his one true love, Liz, back. And it's really cute like usual. I don't think I love second chance romances as much as some other romances, like Friends to Lovers I love, Enemies to Lovers, but I think because we got a whole book of Wes and Liz in Better Than the Movies, I just knew them so well to where I actually think I enjoyed it more than I would have if it was just a regular old standalone second chance romance. A complaint I have with this book, which I think I saw a lot of other people have, is that it kind of just felt too different than Better Than the Movies in terms of like the vibe. In Better Than the Movies, Liz is such a hopeless romantic. She's like romanticizing her life with songs and movies, like this is the song I would play right now if my life was a movie, that kind of thing. And she just wants that like perfect movie moment in her life, like the grand gesture, all that stuff. And this one, she's not like that anymore. She apparently doesn't believe in love anymore, which, I mean, I get that because the person that you thought you were meant to be with and you thought you were going to be with forever, you break up and then you're heartbroken, and your mindset changes maybe a little bit. And she is young, I think she's, I don't know, I think they're like 20 in this book. So I think if you have sympathy for her and the whole situation and understand maybe what it would actually be like if it happened to you, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, overall I enjoyed it. Not as much as Better Than the Movies, but I still really liked it. And I rated that one a 4-star. Next we read Winterwood by Shea Ernshaw. This is a standalone young adult fantasy about this girl, what's her name again? Nora Walker. She's rumored to be a witch. One day she is in the woods and she finds this boy. What's his name again? Oliver. She finds this boy Oliver, who's actually the same boy that has been missing for, I don't know, 2 weeks. He went missing from the school for wayward boys that he was attending, and everyone thought he was dead because they didn't find him. But she finds him in the woods, still alive, which is kind of curious because it's winter and freezing and he probably would have not made it, but he did. And so she kind of, helps him, takes him in, and this part of the summary explains this part well, so I'll just read it. What Nora doesn't know, though, is that Oliver has secrets of his own, secrets he'll do anything to keep buried, because as it turns out, he wasn't the only one who went missing on that fateful night all those weeks ago. So yeah, we got like a witchy vibe in the winter time, a little romance, and I enjoyed it. I didn't like it quite as much as the other book that I read by her, The Wicked Deep, which is why I picked this one up, because I really, really loved that book. And this one wasn't as good, but I still think Shea Ernshaw is so talented at painting painting a picture of the scenery, and she has very atmospheric writing, and you really feel like you are in the woods and in the story with how she writes and describes the scenery. So really like that about her, and I'm gonna keep picking up her books, I think. All right, next I read 4 books, a part of the same series, which was the Shatter Me series. I finished it finally. I am so happy. I read Defy Me and Reveal Me in February, and then Imagine Me and Believe Me in March. If you don't know, this is a YA dystopian romance series. We are following our main character, Juliet, who has this special ability where her touch can kill. And in the first book, she is held captive by the Reestablishment, which is kind of like the governing body of this society. And they know about her ability, and so they kind of want to use her as a weapon. She doesn't want anything to do with that, so she kind of, goes rogue and tries to get out of there, go against the Reestablishment, and along the way, she finds other people to kind of join her cause. The plot is super good, crazy sometimes, especially near the last 3 main books of the series. Restore Me is the 4th book, and then Defy Me and Imagine Me. You learn so much, and some crazy stuff happens, and honestly, I would say that it maybe teeters on not being appropriate for young adults. Not because of the spice or anything with the romance. However, maybe that too a tiny bit actually. But some of these stuff is really brutal that happens to these characters. Yeah, just keep that in mind. But I absolutely loved the romance in this series. Our male main love interest is one of my favorites. He's that typical, he hates everyone except her kind of situation, and I just loved it. I rated Defy Me a 4.75, so close to a 5. Reveal Me, 4 stars, just a little novella, but it was actually a really good novella. I rated Imagine Me a 4.25 star, and Believe Me, the last novella, 4.5 star. All right, now we are getting into March. Obviously, I just talked about 2 of the other books I read in March, but the first book I finished in March was The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. I read this on my Kindle. It is on Kindle Unlimited if you are curious. This is the 2nd book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. Amidst that series, we have different duets. So this was part of the first one, the Nightborn duet, and then I think there is going to be 2 other duets in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. We are just continuing on how we left off with The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is the first book. This is an adult romantasy series about vampires. Our main character, Oriah, is a human. She's living with her adoptive father, who is a vampire, Vincent. He's very powerful in the vampire world, and because she's around vampires all the time, she's just kind of tired of being scared always of them hurting her or not being able to protect herself. So she joins this competition, the Kajari, which is very dangerous, of course, and if you win this competition, you get kind of a wish from the goddess Nyaxia, and with that wish, basically, she would kind of become more than just a mere human. Along the way during the competition, she meets this vampire, because pretty much I think she's the only vampire, yeah, in the competition. All the other ones are, or did I say vampire? She's the only human in the competition. So she meets Rain, who's a vampire, and to try and get farther into the competition, they kind of join an alliance together, and that is where the romance happens in this series. The Serpent and the Wings of Night ended pretty crazy, so this book is kind of dealing with the fallout of that, and we kind of go on a whole new journey. I really liked this book. I did not like it as much as The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It just seemed a little bit too long, was my main complaint. I think it's over 600 pages? Am I making that up? 626 pages. That's actually really long. I'm just now realizing how long that actually is. And also the beginning, I don't know if it's because it had been a couple months since I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, but the beginning was a little bit, not confusing, but it just took me a little bit to get into the story. I don't know why. Maybe that's just a me problem, but I rated this one 4.25 stars. Next I read Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is the start of a trilogy. The first 2 books are out so far. Sometimes I feel like the summaries of books explain the book good, but also while not giving a lot away Okay, so on this one, I'm just gonna read the summary to you guys. Victor and Eli started out as college roommates, brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys who recognized the same sharpness and ambition in each other. In their senior year, a shared research interest in adrenaline, near-death experiences, and seemingly supernatural events reveals an intriguing possibility that under the right conditions, someone could develop extraordinary abilities. But when their thesis moves from the academic to the experimental, things go horribly wrong. We have like a revenge story, basically, plot. We get then and now timelines from when they were college roommates and now I think 10 years later. One of them basically wants revenge on the other one. And this is explained to you like in the first chapter, so it's not a spoiler, but I thought I would like this book more than I did. I still enjoyed it. It was a very interesting premise, but I think my main complaint with it is that I did not like the characters. I don't think we're supposed to, but I liked them less than I think maybe we were supposed to. You know, usually you would say characters have like that morally gray part about them where you're like, they're not really good people, but maybe it's for a good reason or something like that. But I just think these characters, Victor and Eli, were just straight up not good people. They did really bad things. And that's honestly like the only or main complaint that I have with it. But because of that, I don't know, it's hard to connect with a book where you just really do not like the characters. I rated this one 3.75 stars. Next, I read The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen, which is, first of all, a cool edition of this book. This is an adult romantasy, kind of dealing with like Greek mythology, Greek gods. We have this competition called the Crucible, where the different gods of Olympus compete, but they compete via a human. They each choose a human to compete in their stead, and those humans have to go through like 12 different kind of trials to try to win. And if they win, not only does the human get like really amazing things granted to them, but also the god whose mortal wins is crowned king of the gods, which they all really want. So we have Lyra, who randomly gets chosen by Hades, the god of death, to be his competitor. And there is a romance with Hades and Lyra, which I love so much. This whole book I just ate up. I read it so fast, especially the last like 380-ish pages in one day. So if that tells you anything, I just could not stop. I loved it so much, and I rated this one 5 stars. This is also the start of, I think, what's going to be a trilogy, and this is the first book out so far. The next one comes out this September, so I'm really excited about that. If you like, you know, games, trials type of fantasy, Greek mythology maybe even, which I don't necessarily like or dislike, I highly recommend this one. 5 more books. Next we have another one I read on my Kindle, Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This is also the start of a series. I originally thought a duology, but I actually don't know how many books is going to be in it, but more than 2. We're following Ophelia, who is a necromancer. Her mother just died, and her sister are kind of left with like debts, and to try to help their situation, her sister Genevieve goes and joins Phantasma, which is a magical, deadly competition. So Ophelia goes to try to stop Genevieve and find her and be the big sister and kind of get her out of the situation that she's gotten herself into. But to do that, she also has to join Phantasma. So Ophelia joins, and she ends up coming across this phantom named Blackwell. They kind of strike up a deal with each other. He will help her kind of in each level of Phantasma if she will help him find something. If you do happen to win Phantasma, then you get, I think, also like a wish from the game master kind of Phantasma. I really liked this book too. I rated this one 4.5 stars. Mostly the reason I didn't rate it higher is because it didn't give me that 5-star feeling, and also I think the romance was a little bit spicy for my liking and was just kind of out of the blue sometimes, but overall I really liked it, and I'm definitely going to be continuing the series. Next I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. This is a mystery. I'm just gonna say mystery. I feel like mystery thriller always gets combined together, but this was really just a mystery, maybe like with a handful of kind of thrilling scenes. We are following Laurel Mack, who is a like 50-year-old mother, and 10 years ago her 15-year-old daughter Ellie disappeared. They never really found out what exactly happened to her. Did she run away? Was she taken? Why? If so? And finally, after kind of years of grief and not coping very well with that, she is starting to get back to herself and kind of put it behind her in a sense, you know, as much as you can do with this situation. She meets this guy Floyd. They start a relationship, and when she goes to meet his kids, one of his daughters, 9-year-old Poppy, is the spitting image of Ellie when she was younger. So Laurel kind of sparks her again to really get down to the bottom of what happened to Ellie all those years ago. And it's very different than other books I've read that are like mystery thrillers, where you kind of learn part of what happens to Ellie pretty early on in the book, and Lisa Jewell kind of slowly throughout the book tells you just what happened instead of there being like a big plot twist at the end, which you'd think would maybe make it less enjoyable to read because everyone loves a good plot twist, but I still really liked it. I think there was like more deeper meaning in this book than just being a mystery. I honestly really liked this book. I rated it 4.25 stars. Next, we read The Gracier by Kim Liggett, which is another thriller, but this one is a YA kind of dystopian thriller. We are following our main character, Tierney, who is 16, and when you turn 16 in this society, you have to go through this grace year, which basically just means you and all the other 16-year-old girls in your county go to the woods basically and spend a year there to try to expel all of your magic. And pretty much every grace year, not all of the girls make it through the year and return. And it says right here on the back, as her own grace year draws near, she quickly realizes that there's more to fear about the grace year than the brutal elements and the poachers in the woods. Their greatest threat may very well be each other. The girls in this society kind of get pitted up against each other because their society just doesn't treat women very well. You know, they have no say. They have no voice. They're basically needed for like one thing only, which is to work and give the men in this society babies. I did have a feeling that I was going to enjoy this book, but I ended up liking it so much. I rated it 4.5 stars, and kind of similar to Then She Was Gone, this one has like that deeper meaning kind of about women sticking together, and I really liked that aspect of it. Also, just quick thing though, it is YA, but again, kind of similar to the Shatter Me series. I feel like this is a little bit, I don't know, some of the things that happen in it are, I would say, a little bit more mature. So keep that in mind if you are younger, or if you have, you know, someone in your life that you recommend books to or buy books for or whatever, that I would say this one is more maybe like 16 and up, 18 and up, something like that. Next, we have my one audiobook I read in March, or listened to in March, and that was The Shining by Stephen King. This one took me all month to listen to, and it's not even that long. It's like 500 pages, but it seemed way longer for some reason. But if you don't know, this is a very famous story that was turned into a movie about this family, the Torrance family, who the dad, Jack, becomes the caretaker of this hotel, and it's like on this mountain that has crazy winters and so much snow in the winter that they close down for the winter, so they need a caretaker to kind of take care of the hotel when there aren't any guests. And Jack finds himself needing a job, so he takes the job, and him and his 5-year-old son Danny and wife Wendy go and move there, and things just start kind of going wrong. They're utterly alone up there because the roads get undrivable, unpassable because of all the snow. After a certain point, they can't leave the hotel anymore. So it's kind of like, what's that called? Cabin fever, where you're just cooped up and you kind of start going a little bit crazy. And yeah, basically you're just following the family and Jack especially deal with this kind of cabin fever and the Overlook Hotel. It's kind of like a haunted hotel situation. I was really excited about this book. I have never read it. This was my first time reading it. I have seen the movie multiple times and I really enjoy it. I have read other Stephen King books. I believe this was my my 5th novel by Stephen King that I've read, and then I've also read a novella by him. So I'm slowly getting through his books. I mean, he has so many that I'll probably never get through all of them. Yeah, I had high hopes for this one. It has such good like reviews and ratings from people, and it's just very well loved, but I thought it was a little bit just too slow and dragged out. Again, it was only like 500 pages, which is still long, but it seemed like it was maybe like 700 pages. And I get why it was kind of that slow, I guess, build up to the climax of the story because of just the kind of the cabin fever slowly going crazy in there. But I just wish it was a little bit more fast paced and more like the end, because the last like 20% was so good. I'd be like listening to it on my way to work, and then I would get to work and I would be like, no, I don't want to stop listening to this and have to wait until after work to keep going. The end was so good, but overall with kind of the slower first 80% mixed with the really good ending and just the story overall. King's writing, of course, is always amazing. I ended up rating this one 4 stars. Very last book was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I finally read this. It was about time. I have had it for a while and I just keep saying I'm going to, or I just keep wanting to but don't end up picking it up for whatever reason, but finally got to it. This is a young adult fantasy duology kind of about this like heist, and we have these six of crows people, including a criminal, a heartrender, which in this world is someone with magic and kind of can like heal people and change their appearance and stuff like that, a sharpshooter, a thief, a spy, and they make up this crew to try to pull off this crazy and dangerous heist. Our main character in this story, Kaz, gets offered the heist and then he finds the crew to help him out. This is kind of a spin-off duology from the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I didn't read that, so I was maybe a little bit slower to kind of get into the book as maybe other people, trying to, you know, learn about the kind of magic of this world, of the Grishaverse it's called, stuff like that. So it took me a little bit to get into it, but once the heist started, which kind of starts around like halfway through, I was completely hooked. I loved it. So much happens. The stakes are really high. You're like stressed for the characters if they're going to succeed or not. And yeah, definitely going to read the second book in the duology, Crooked Kingdom, very soon, hopefully. But I really ended up liking this. Leigh Bardugo, I now know why she is so loved. Her writing is really good. She's made up all these kinds of different magical people, like the Heartrender, for example, that I was talking about, who is part of the crew, and it's just very impressive. And I really like how there's like a subplot, very subplot of romance between a couple of the characters in this story, and she writes that really good. It's kind of like you just get crumbs and you get kind of their inner monologue of yearning for each other. I ended up rating this one 4.5 stars. I'm editing this video right now and I realized that I forgot to mention my DNF. I mean, I said I DNF'd a book, but I forgot to say what book it was and why. So real quick, I'm gonna do that. The book I DNF'd was Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I don't know, like I was listening to this on audio and one day I went to go listen to it and I was like, oh, I just really don't care what happens in this book or about this book in general. So I just decided to stop reading it and DNF it. I was 40% of the way through. I just didn't care about really the characters or what they were doing in terms of the plot, and then in terms of the romance, I just thought it seemed very surface level, at least to where I got. Again, I only got to 40%, so it probably changes the farther you get into the book, I'm assuming. But to where I was, I just felt like it was very physical, like their thoughts about each other, because I didn't get to actually any of the physical stuff. So yeah, unfortunately, I just don't think that series is for me, and I was really excited to read it and bummed that it wasn't for me. But now back to the video. I'm trying to pick my stack of books up. Okay, that is all of the books I read in February and March. Again, I am just really happy, proud of myself for reading so many books. I am in the biggest reading mood pretty much this whole year so far. That is always good. I always love reading, of course, but sometimes you're more in the mood for it than others, and I've just been such in the mood for reading, which is why I've been reading so many books, and I've enjoyed a lot of them, which is sometimes not under your control. So as always, let me know if you guys have read any of these books, what your thoughts were. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!